The studio lights always came on a few minutes before she did. Ethan Reyes knew that because it was his job to make sure they did. Every day at 4:57 p.m., he sat behind a wall of sliders and glowing meters in the control room, headset resting slightly over one ear, eyes flickering between the soundboard and the monitor that showed her, always her, Claire Monroe. Even before the red on-air sign blinked to life, she carried herself like she already belonged to the world watching her. Tall, poised, impossibly composed, her voice, when it finally came through Ethan's speakers, was smooth and warm, the kind that made people trust her before she'd even finished her first sentence. "Good evening, I'm Claire Monroe." Ethan adjusted a dial slightly, though it didn't need adjusting. He just liked the excuse to feel like he was shaping something about her presence, even if it was only the volume of her voice. He had met her technically several times, in fact. In the holiday party last December, he'd found himself standing beside her at the bar. She had smiled politely when he introduced himself, Ethan, sound engineering, and nodded as if cataloging him somewhere between useful and forgettable. He'd tried again at the Springs Award banquet. "Congratulations on the segment," he said, holding his drink a little too tightly. "The one about the wildfire recovery. It was really good." "Thank you," she replied, already turning slightly, her attention drifting to someone more important, an executive, maybe, or a visiting anchor from another station. He'd stood there for a moment longer than necessary before stepping away, telling himself not to be that guy. After that, he kept his distance. Admiration, he decided, was safer from behind glass. Claire lived in a world of schedules and appearances. Her days began before sunrise, hair and makeup before most people had even poured their first cup of coffee. Her smile was practiced, but not fake. She cared about her work, but about the story she told, but there was always a barrier between her and anyone else. Colleagues respected her, viewers adored her, but few people actually knew her. That was the cost of being Claire Monroe. The call came on a Tuesday. Ethan knew something was wrong before anyone said a word. The newsroom, usually humming with urgency, had gone strangely quiet. Conversations dropped to whispers. Phones rang and went unanswered. Claire wasn't in her usual place. At 4:57, the lights came on. At 5, a different anchor sat in her chair. Ethan's stomach tightened. He caught snippets over his headset. Accident. Her mother. She's on her way. He didn't mean to listen, but once the words were out there, they couldn't be unheard. Her mother had died. Claire didn't return to the station for a week. When she did, she looked like someone that had taken a carefully constructed version of her life and shattered it. Her hair was still perfect, her clothes still tailored, but her eyes gave her away. Ethan saw it immediately on the monitor. She missed a cue. Claire Monroe didn't miss cues. He leaned forward, instinctively adjusting levels, as if that could steady her. Her voice wavered just once on a word that shouldn't have been difficult. Community. It was subtle. Most viewers wouldn't notice. Ethan did. After the broadcast, he found himself standing outside Studio B, hands shoved into his pockets, debating whether to knock. This was a bad idea. She barely knew him. But something about the way her voice had cracked, so small, so human, kept him rooted there. Before he could talk himself out of it, the door opened. Claire stepped out, pausing when she saw him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "Hey," Ethan said, immediately regretting how inadequate it sounded. "Hi." Her voice was softer than usual, stripped of its on-air confidence. I just wanted to say," he hesitated, searching for words that didn't feel rehearsed. "I'm really sorry about your mom." Her expression shifted, just slightly. Not surprise, more like recognition that someone had acknowledged the thing everyone else was trying not to say outright. "Thank you," she said. Silence stretched between them. Ethan nodded, about to leave, mission accomplished, or at least arrived, when she spoke again. "Did it show?" she asked. He blinked. "What?" "On air." She gave a faint, almost self-conscious smile. Didn't it show that I'm not exactly holding it together? Ethan considered lying. He didn't. Only if you were looking for it, he said gently. Most people wouldn't notice. She studied him for a moment, as if weighing something. Did you notice? Yeah. Another pause. Then unexpectedly, she let out a quiet breath, almost a laugh. Of course you did. You're the sound guy. Sound engineer, he corrected automatically, then immediately winced. Sorry. That sounded, she shook her head, the ghost of a real smile appearing for the first time. No, you're right. Sound engineer. Something shifted in that moment. Not dramatically, just enough. Do you have a minute? She asked. Ethan's heart kicked unexpectedly. Yeah, of course. They ended up in the empty break room. Claire sat at the table, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. Ethan took the seat across from her, unsure of what role he was supposed to play. He didn't have to wonder for long. She was supposed to come visit next month, Claire said, staring at the cup. We had this whole plan. I was going to show her the studio, introduce her to everyone. She'd never seen me work in person. Ethan listened. That was the only thing he knew how to do. I kept putting it off, she continued, because I was busy, because there was always another segment, another deadline. And now, her voice flattened. Ethan leaned forward slightly, resting his arms on the table. She knew you loved her, he said quietly. Claire's eyes flicked up to his. That's not the same as showing up. No, he admitted, it's not, but it still matters. Tears filled her eyes, and at this time she didn't try to hide them. Not always dramatic, not always emotional. Sometimes Claire just needed somewhere to sit that wasn't her empty apartment, someone to talk to who wasn't asking her to be composed or professional. Ethan became that source. They'd met after broadcast, lingering in the break room or taking slow walks through the quiet streets nearby. She talked about her mother, about childhood memories, about arguments that were never resolved, about the strange, hollow feeling of knowing those conversations are now impossible. Ethan shared pieces of himself too, not all at once, just enough. He told her about growing up in a small town, about discovering sound engineering almost by accident, about how he'd always preferred being behind the scenes rather than in front of people. You notice things, Claire said one night, watching him. Details. Most people don't. It's kind of the job, he replied. No, she said softly, it's not just the job. Weeks passed. Claire began to find her footing again. On air was as composed as ever. Off air, she was different. More open, less guarded, and Ethan noticed something else. She started seeking him out. At first it was the small things, waiting for him after a broadcast, asking if he wanted coffee, lingering a little longer in conversation. Then one evening, she showed up at the control room. Ethan looked up, surprised. Hey, everything okay? Yeah, she said, stepping inside. I just wanted to see where you work. He smiled, a little self-conscious. It's not as glamorous as the studio. She glanced around the equipment, the monitors, the soft glow of buttons and screens. I don't know, she said. This is where the magic actually happens, right? Ethan chuckled. Something like that. She moved closer, watching as he adjusted a setting. You make me sound better, she said. You already sound good. Still, she insisted, you help. He shrugged. That's what I'm here for. Claire studied him for a long moment. No, she said quietly, that's not all you're here for. It hit her slowly, not like a sudden revelation, but like a truth that had been waiting patiently for her to notice it. Ethan was steady, kind, present in a way no one else had been. Not during the chaos of her career, not even in the polished circles she moved through. He didn't need anything from her. He wasn't impressed by her status or intimidated by it. He just cared. One night, as they walked under the soft glow of streetlights, Claire stopped. Can I ask you something? She said. Sure. Why did you keep trying? She asked. Before all this, at the parties, the events, I wasn't exactly welcoming. Ethan smiled faintly. You were a little intimidating. A little? Okay, very. She laughed, then sobered. So why? He hesitated, then decided there was no point in pretending. "Because I liked you," he said simply. "Not just the on-air version, the way you talked to people, the way you cared about your stories. I figured maybe there was more to you than what everyone else saw." Claire's chest tightened. "And now?" she asked. "Now I know there is," he said, "and I was right." She looked at him, really looked at him, and felt something shift into place, something certain. It happened on a quiet Sunday morning. No cameras, no scripts, no audience. Just Claire and Ethan in her living room, sunlight spilling through the windows. They'd been talking about nothing in particular. What to have for breakfast, a show they both half watched, the kind of ordinary conversation that once would have felt insignificant to her. Now it felt like everything. Claire set her coffee down and turns to him. "Ethan?" "Yeah?" Her heart pounded, but her voice was steady. "Marry me." He blinked, caught completely off guard. "What?" "I'm serious," she said, a small, nervous smile tugging at her lips. "I know it's not traditional, and I know it's fast. But I've spent so much of my life chasing the wrong things, or the wrong people. And then," she gestured between them, "you were just there, steady, real, everything I didn't even realize I needed." Ethan stared at her, searching her face for any sign of doubt. He didn't find it. "Claire," he began. "I don't want to waste time anymore," she said softly. "I've already learned how quickly things can disappear. I don't want to look back and realize I hesitated when I knew." She let out a slow breath. His own emotions were catching up with him. "You're sure?" he asked. "I've never been more sure of anything." For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then Ethan smiled. "Okay," he said, "let's do it." Claire laughed, a real, unguarded laugh, and threw her arms around him. And for the first time, there were no cameras, no lights, no audience. Just two people who had finally found exactly what they needed in each other.